Kaapo Kakko remains out with an injury, but could it actually be a blessing in disguise for the former second overall pick? We discuss this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 969, the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So going to talk about kind of an idea that popped into my head. We had a couple of days off here, and I'm thinking about the Rangers and, what is it going to be like when they come back from this short break that they had here, the holiday break? And, what about the injured players, Kaapo Kakko, Filipino, and Kaapo Kakko specifically? It's obviously been what can really only be described as a very, very difficult situation thus far for him. We did get an update about Kaapo Kakko a couple days ago, not too much less than a week ago. In fact, I think it's about 5 days now. But Kaapo Kakko has begun to skate on his own. And again, this is a little bit less than a week ago when this news broke. So seems to be moving the right direction, Kaapo Kakko. But I wanted to toss out the idea that maybe the fact that he's been injured for a while could actually be a blessing in disguise for Kakko. Not so much the Rangers, because I do think even though he's not producing offensively this season or wasn't before he got injured, I don't for a second believe that Kaapo Kakko doesn't make this Ranger team at least a little bit better. So obviously the Rangers want him back, and I'm sure Kakko wants to get back out there too. That's obvious. But I'm just wondering if maybe this injury could be a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. First, a couple of disclaimers. I'm not saying that I would ever want anybody to get injured. I'm not saying that I don't sympathize with Kaapo Kakko and his situation. Obviously, these guys are pro athletes. They want to be out there doing what they do and, contributing to their team. Obviously, the Rangers have been very successful so far this season. Kaapo Kakko certainly wants to go out there and be a part of that. It's got to be tough for him, knowing that he can't really do a whole lot to help the Rangers right now. But as far as why the injury, once again, could be a blessing in disguise, let's kind of recap the season that he's had thus far, and then kind of come back around to this idea that I'm throwing out there today. So to begin with, Kakko played 20 games for the Rangers this season, and he was struggling offensively. I don't think that can really be denied. Just the 2 goals and the 1 assist in the 20 games was nevertheless a +1, despite the lack of offensive fireworks. But, he just wasn't really doing a whole lot offensively. And it's not just the numbers. You watch him play out there. There weren't a whole lot of opportunities where I felt like he was necessarily getting unlucky. He is very good at maintaining possession of the puck in the offensive zone. We've established that. And I think he was doing some of that this season, but you rarely saw Kakko get to like those high danger scoring opportunities and get into a position where you really felt like a goal was forthcoming. So there's that. There's also the fact that, as far as why that's been a tough season for Kakko up to the point of his injury, is he started the season on the top line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider and kind of lost that opportunity. Him and Blake Wheeler got flip-flopped because the two of them were both struggling. So it was kind of like, all right, let's switch things up and see how it goes here. The two of them were off to a rough start. And then Kakko, again, doing next to nothing offensively, loses a spot in the top 6, just kind of floundering. He was still playing good defensive hockey. He still grades out as like an elite offensive, or rather defensive forward, does Kaapo Kakko. So he still does bring that to the table. But when you're drafted second overall, certainly you're expected to do quite a bit more offensively by year 5 than 3 points in 20 games. I don't think anybody would argue against that. And then, of course, he gets the injury, suffered against the Sabres on November 27th, and he hasn't been out there since. The reason I believe, to bring this full circle here, why all this could be a blessing in disguise for Kaapo Kakko is it gets to the point where, whatever sport you might be playing at whatever level, when you get off to the start to your season as nightmarish as Kaapo Kakko has gotten off to, at a certain point, all personal goals and all personal aspirations kind of go out the window, and it goes right to your whole mindset goes to the team first. And to begin with, I think Kaapo Kakko is certainly a team first kind of guy. I don't think he would put in the kind of work defensively that he puts in if that was not the case. A lot of guys, maybe, there's certain players that get drafted early and they go into the league thinking they're, superstars and they're just going to light up the whole world and put up all these crazy offensive numbers. Kakko's never really been that guy. Kakko is somebody that's always put in the work when it comes to defensive hockey. But once again, when you get off to this bad of a start, all personal goals, all personal aspirations, they kind of go by the wayside. If I could be permitted to share a quick story, the sport I played more than any other growing up was always baseball. Worst slump of my entire, playing days, whatever you want to call it, was at the beginning of a season one year, 0 for 14 to start the season. It sucked. It was rough to go through. Certainly not the way that you want to start your season. But, just like any other, athlete at any other level, you want to be team first. And of course you are team first, but you do go into a season with certain, goals that you want to hit and certain things you want to do. They're going to help the team win. By the time you're 0 for 14 in a 16 game season, you're not going to hit those milestones. It's not going to be your best season ever. And it makes it very, very easy to kind of let go of all that. And again, just kind of draw the line in the sand, just say, okay, season starts right now. I'm going to start helping my team. Any personal goals, I'm not going to get there. Doesn't matter. It's all about helping the team win. And I think Kaapo Kakko could be in a similar situation. Again, obviously he's in a much, much bigger stage than whatever the biggest stage was that I ever played on. But I think it's kind of the same where, at a certain point, it gets to a point where that's probably not even in your conscience anymore. Coming into the season, a lot of people were predicting Kaapo Kakko to have a big time breakout year. Mike Rupp was one of the most vocal about it. I think he said like 60 or 65 points for Kaapo Kakko, somewhere in that ballpark. I myself thought it was going to be a breakout season for Kaapo Kakko. I went a little more conservative than Rupper did. I think I put it at like 50 or 55 points. But again, that's not going to happen. We all know it's not going to happen. Even if Kakko got back out there for tonight's game, he's not going to get up to that high of a point total, it would certainly seem. So it makes it very, very easy to just kind of let go of it and just say, who cares? It's all about the team. It's all about how I can contribute going forward to help this team do what it wants to do, and that's ultimately win a Stanley Cup. And that's another point I want to make here, because whether it's Kakko or anybody else, anybody that you think that is maybe underachieving offensively, doesn't have the amount of points that maybe we would like them to see at this juncture of the season, whether that's the case or not, it almost doesn't matter when it comes to what the team ends up doing, because the Rangers, again, they're one of the elite teams in hockey. Their record would suggest it. The way they bring it every single night, the way they compete every single night, that would suggest it as well. And if the Rangers win a Stanley Cup this season, that's a big if, and there's a long, long way to go here. But every player on that roster, I don't say this lightly, but I really do believe every player on that roster, Kaapo Kakko included, immediately becomes immortalized in the eyes of Ranger fans. Because again, we are talking about a team, not to always bring this up, but it's reality and we have to acknowledge it. We are talking about a team that has won one Stanley Cup since 1940. And when you think about that 1994 team, anybody that was fortunate enough to, actually be alive when it happened, first of all, and also be old enough to remember it, all those players are held, even to this day, in such high regard. And it doesn't matter whether it's a superstar player like Mark Messier, a role player like, Brian Noonan. Every single one of those players is highly thought of, fondly remembered by Ranger fans. And if Kaapo Kakko comes back and he's able to find a way down the stretch here, maybe you get him and Philip Hedl back together on the third line. I wouldn't go full kid line reunion, because I do like Lafreniere playing with Artemi Panarin. And I don't want to drop all three of, the former kid line players out of the top six. But maybe when, everybody's healthy again, Hedl and Kakko, they kind of rediscover a little bit of that magic. They go back out there together. Maybe the two of them together, and whoever the third member of that line might be in the playoffs makes a difference. There is still time for this story of Kaapo Kakko's 2023-2024 season to have a happy ending. And it's not going to be because, he's a point per game player, flirting with a point per game, or, 60 points, whatever it might be. It's not going to be because of gaudy offensive numbers. It's going to be because he comes back and helps this Ranger team, which is already among the NHL elite, just get that much better. And he can do that in a variety of different ways. Even if he's not lighting up the score sheet, we know how good he is defensively. That alone will help the Rangers. I don't think it's a coincidence that when he went out of the lineup, the Rangers, they got a little bit leakier defensively, shall we say. He does make a difference in that aspect of the game. It's not exactly what we thought we were getting when the Rangers drafted him, but it's still a way to help this team win. And he has a chance to do exactly that whenever he gets back into this lineup. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that obviously he can get back healthy and contribute to this team when he gets back, because again, I mean, there's a long way to go here. And yeah, it's been a disaster so far this season for Kaapo Kakko. He is an impending RFA, by the way, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But there is time for a redemption story to be written. And again, I just think the fact that he's been out for a while, it allows him to kind of collect himself, draw that line in the sand, obviously get a mental break. And look, he'd much rather be playing hockey than watching from the sidelines right now. But maybe, just maybe, crazier concepts have been suggested on this show and from other Ranger fans for sure. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe he comes back kind of renewed, refreshed, and again, draw that line in the sand and say, okay, my season starts right now. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to, help this team continue to win and hopefully make a deep playoff run and maybe be the last team standing when this entire season concludes. We will see what happens there, but definitely looking forward to getting Kaapo Kakko back in the lineup whenever that does happen. We'll keep everything rolling just a second here. I want to shift our attention back to the World Juniors. We talked about this in a recent episode. We were previewing the entire tournament. The Rangers have 3 players there, and the tournament is underway. So we're going to talk about those players and how they've fared thus far in the tournament. Also, going to take a look at the Rangers matchup tonight against the Washington Capitals. And we're going to do all that fun stuff in just a second here. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without all those annoying hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We also want to let you guys know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Like I said, want to go ahead and shift our attention to World Juniors. And actually, as I'm recording this, there's a game going on right now. We got Czechia leading Norway 2-1 in the second period, but it's been a good tournament so far. And what's good news for Ranger fans is that all 3 of the Rangers participating in this tourney, that of course be Adam Sykora, Gabe Perreault, Drew Fortescue, all 3 of them off to good starts. Adam Sykora playing for Slovakia. We'll start with him. They kicked off the tournament on Tuesday, defeating Czechia by a final score of 6-2. It's interesting because unless I just read this wrong last night, I thought that I saw that Sykora had been credited with an assist, but it's possible that either I looked at it wrong or maybe, official scoring change happened sometime between then and now. Regardless, not seeing him listed with an assist as of Wednesday morning here, but he did have 22 minutes, 51 seconds of ice time. That was second on Slovakia. And I'm including forwards and defensemen, not just forwards. Second in ice time for Slovakia was Adam Sykora. He was also an even plus-minus and had a shot on goal. Also of note, he is the team captain this year. This is, of course, Sykora's 3rd time playing at the World Juniors with Slovakia. He was listed as an alternate captain 2 years ago, but no letter last year. And now this year, he is the team captain. And a little bit earlier today, Wednesday morning, of course, it's a different time over there in Sweden. But for us here, anybody on the East Coast of the United States, we're talking about, I think it was a 6 a.m. puck drop for this game. But Slovakia played again, and they improved to 2-0. They defeat Switzerland 3-0. No points for Sykora in this game either. He was a +2. He was 4th on his team in ice time with 20 minutes and 7 seconds. That was second among forwards for Slovakia. The game I was able to watch, though, was the United States opening game that, of course, happened yesterday, Tuesday, the day after Christmas, for kind of point of reference there. And they defeated Norway 4-1. A little bit of a slow start for the U.S. and, of course, for Fortescue and Perreault. They're the two Ranger players that are on the United States team. But, pressure-packed environment, it's not that surprising. The United States goalie, Augustine, made a couple of really nice saves early in this game, kept the game scoreless, kind of let the U.S. find their game, and they eventually got it going, started getting to work on the forecheck, just playing more aggressively, getting some second-chance opportunities as well. The U.S. went up 3-0, gave up a shorty to cut the lead to 3-1, then got an insurance goal right back to go on to the 4-1 win. And Brindley was named the player of the game with 2 goals. But as for the guys we really care about as Ranger fans, you've got, once again, Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue. They both played well in this game. Gabe Perreault was all over the ice. You can really see the talent on display pretty much every time he's out there. He had an assist, 2 shots, was also a -1, and had 15 minutes and 3 seconds of ice time. And it's interesting because, well, for starters, he's actually playing on the left wing, even though he's listed as a right wing, and he's playing with 2 of his college teammates at BC. This is listed as the third line for the United States. You've got Perreault, Will Smith, and Ryan Leonard from left to right. And USA, they got on the power play early, and Gabe Perreault is right out there, so it looks like he's going to be a member of the top power play unit for the United States. There were a couple of other instances where he got close to scoring. He went to the net in this game, kind of early in this game, and was looking for a pass from Leonard. They couldn't quite connect, but Perreault did draw a penalty on that play. He was kind of zipping, just straight up the ice to the net. He got close to scoring then on the power play, I believe it was. He had a one-timer opportunity from the right circle. He was robbed on a sliding save. But you just watch him play. He seems to really be a really good puck handler, seems to be a very elusive player. When he's zipping up the ice into the offensive zone, you've got your hands full as a defenseman trying to keep up with him and trying to figure out whatever he's going to do with the puck. We also had a little give and go opportunity. Leonard to Perreault, back to Leonard. That was turned aside as well. Another nice save there. Play that really impressed me, though, because I haven't really heard a whole lot about Perreault being like a physical player, one of those guys that's like blue collar, goes to work along the boards. But there was an instance in this game where he went behind the net. He was in on the forecheck. Was really fighting hard to get the puck. Came away with it, passed in front to Leonard, and the save was made there too. But that was cool to see from Perreault. And then, of course, he had a primary assist. We mentioned that just a second ago. Might as well go ahead and break down that goal. So the U.S. is operating on the power play. It's getting toward the end of said power play. And Brindley ends up scoring with 8 seconds left. The U.S. basically just staying with it, just relentless here. And Perreault was able to find a rebound, and he very easily could have shot the puck. And as I'm watching this play develop, I'm thinking he's just going to turn and rip it at the net because he's in there pretty deep. But this is where that high hockey IQ and just having a big-time feel for the game comes into play. People were raving about those aspects of Perreault's game going into the draft this year. And it was on display here because instead of just, turning and shooting, possibly just, kind of shoving the puck into the goalie's pads, he saw that his teammate was open on the other side of the ice. That would, of course, be Brindley. And he passed over to him, and easy tap and goal for Brindley at that point. But again, just the instincts and the vision and just the feel for the game on display for Perreault there. And it's just one game, but, you do watch him play, Gabe Perreault, and you see, why people were excited and why a lot of us Ranger fans were all pretty hyped about him falling to the Rangers at number 23 overall. Still can't believe that happened, but we'll obviously take it. And then as for Fortescue, he played well also. He had 1 assist, 2 shots, 18:49 time on the ice. That was the second most on Team USA for this game. A couple of plays early in this game where he collected the puck in behind the United States net and just skated it out on his own, kind of got the rush going in the opposite direction. His passing seemed to be pretty accurate as well. He was also out there quite a bit on the penalty kill. In the second period, the start of the second period, there was a power play where the United States was shorthanded, and he was out there right at the start of the second period. So you figure he's going to be a big part of the penalty kill. And on this penalty kill, he stepped right in the way of a slap shot, a one-timer, just an absolute missile of a shot, and fearlessly blocked it. You could tell it hurt him a little bit, but he stayed in the play and obviously kept going. And then right after this, Norway ended up having a 5-on-3 advantage against the United States. It only lasted for 15 seconds, but they put Fortescue on the ice. So again, somebody that is clearly going to be playing at important, junctures in the game, somebody that is clearly, trusted by the United States coaching staff. So that was cool to see him get that opportunity. And then, of course, the secondary assist, basically he just passed across the blue line to Casey. Casey to a player whose name I'm probably going to butcher right now, but Snugerud, I believe is how you say it. I'm still learning this team, obviously, but Snugerud was able to turn, rip a wrist shot, put the U.S. up 1-0 at that time. So Fortescue gets the secondary assist on the first goal of the tournament for the United States. And again, this tournament's a lot of fun. It's especially fun for me, watching these Ranger players. Again, there's only 3 this year, which is a little bit of a letdown. I want to say last year there were as many as like 6 or 7 Ranger prospects playing in this tournament. Only 3 this year, but that's better than nothing. And it is great competition and on it kind of strange hours. But if you're working from home, there's that's something you could put on and just enjoy some good hockey being played, because it is a spirited and hotly contested tournament, to be sure. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to switch our attention to the Rangers, back to the Rangers, and talk about their matchup tonight in Madison Square Garden against the Washington Capitals. Puck drops at 7 p.m. for that. So we'll discuss that matchup and who needs to have a big game for the Rangers. We'll do that in just a second here. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. I've talked about this before too, but I got a friend that's a big New York Giants fan, and he never really trusts them for some reason or another, even when they're good. And he's got this strategy where he'll actually bet against the Giants because, as he explains it to me, something good will happen no matter what. Either his team wins or his team loses, but then he wins his bet. So just kind of an idea to toss out to all you guys. But once again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. I want to shift our attention back to the Rangers, and more specifically, their game tonight, Wednesday night at Madison Square Garden against the Washington Caps. For the record, the Rangers also going to be in action at the Panthers on Friday and at the Lightning on Saturday. So they got 3 games in 4 days. Obviously going to have to hit the ground running after this holiday break here, which is great. It's great for all of us. And the Rangers coming into this, still first in the Metro. They've been there for quite some time, 23-8-1. The Capitals are 17-9-5 and in 4th place in the Metro. They would be a playoff team if the season ended right now. The Caps, in their last handful of games, it's interesting because 4 straight games coming into this one for the Capitals that have gone to overtime or a shootout. From the least recent to the most recent, they beat the Canes 2-1 in a shootout, beat the Islanders 3-2 in overtime, beat the Jackets 3-2 in overtime, and lost to the Lightning 2-1 in a shootout. And when you combine the fact that the Caps have obviously been playing in some close games, and so too have the Rangers, they've played in some close games recently too. Rangers have been to overtime a couple of times recently. And the fact that it's Rangers Caps and it's always such a tightly contested game and always really intense. There's a lot of fireworks and a lot of extracurriculars, shall we say. You just get the feeling this is going to be a really good game, kind of an edge of your seat kind of game, and a game that could very well find its way into the overtime period. I almost expect that at this point, that this game will at least make it to overtime, if not the shootout. But also got to mention the fact that the Capitals dominated the Rangers 4-0 in DC a little bit earlier this month on the 9th. Just a bad night for the Rangers. There's not really any other way to say it. They just never really got it going in this game. Ryan Lindgren's brother, Charlie, had a 31-save shutout. And, props to him for doing that. There's no easy way to get a shutout in the NHL. But I felt like it's one of those nights where the Rangers just didn't make it difficult enough on him. 31 saves, that doesn't sound so bad. But a lot of, empty calories there. A lot of saves coming from just non-dangerous scoring opportunities. There weren't a lot of second chance opportunities for the Rangers either. Just a game where the Rangers were not at their best, were not at their sharpest. This is also when Igor was going through some of his struggles, and he ends up giving up 4 goals on 29 shots. And, this is also a stretch of the season that I thought was the worst for the Rangers that we've seen thus far. It's not like they were playing god-awful hockey and getting run out of every building every single night and just playing terrible hockey. I don't think that was the case at all. But this was part of a stretch in December here where the Rangers, they played 6 games and went 3-3, and they just weren't sharp. 2 of those wins were kind of shaky as well. The one win that they had against the Kings was really nice, but that was as much as the Rangers have struggled all season, that 6-game stretch that we saw at the beginning of December. And they've since seemingly turned a corner, because since that stretch that I just talked about, Rangers have gone 4-1. A lot of players have really picked up their game recently, and obviously we hope that kind of carries over into this matchup against the Capitals here tonight. Also of note, the Rangers, they held Alex Ovechkin in check in the last matchup. No points for Ovechkin, but a lot of guys that you don't really expect to score that much ended up getting goals. Milano, Mantha. Mantha's been hot lately. He's somebody else to keep an eye on in this one. Also, Wilson and Ante Kubel, they all score for the Capitals. And again, just not a good night for the Rangers. It's the only time that they've been shut out the entire season. As far as the goalie matchup for tonight, I checked right before I hit record here, and as of now, the Rangers have not announced a starting goalie, but you got to figure it'll be Igor Shesterkin. They're coming out of a break here. Igor's played very well recently. His last 3 games, he's been very, very good in all 3 of them. And they've also got another back-to-back, another Friday-Saturday back-to-back. This is going to be the 3rd straight week where the Rangers play a Friday-Saturday back-to-back. That's kind of a bizarre quirk in the schedule, I suppose, but that's the way that it's going to go. And you figure that in that back-to-back, for sure, you're going to see Igor get one of those games and Quick get the other. So it just stands to reason Igor will be in net tonight. Then maybe you go Quick against the Panthers and Igor against the Lightning. You know, the matchup against the Lightning, that's kind of the bigger matchup. The Rangers have had rivalry with them the last couple of years. They had that crazy playoff series a couple of years ago. And you just figure that, you know, that's the game where we'll probably more likely see Igor Shesterkin. And you don't want to have Quick waiting around to play another game forever either. So you go Igor, Quick, Igor, to start this little 3-game stretch out of the break here. So we'll see how it goes. As I mentioned, you know, Mantha's been hot lately. He scored a couple of goals in recent games. Dylan Strome has had a nice season for the Capitals. I know that the Rangers always get killed by their former players. I don't know if that extends to the brothers of former players, but food for thought there. Keep an eye on Dylan Strome if you're the Rangers, because we don't want that to extend to family members, because the Rangers get wrecked by their former players. We don't want that to include family members as well. But there's that. And Strome right now is playing on the top line. He's centering Ovechkin and Wilson. So I think that'll be a good test for the Rangers' 4th line, because as we've seen recently, and of course, this game is in Madison Square Garden, so the Rangers will have last change and they get to match up how they want. The Rangers, though, recently have been playing their 4th line of VZ, Goodrow, and Pitlick against some of the team's top lines. And I think overall it's worked pretty well. There was a game against the Leafs not too long ago where the Toronto top line just really couldn't get anything going. They were hemmed in their own zone for quite a bit of it. And that 4th line for the Rangers has really played well. They're physical. They get to work on the forecheck. They seem to take a lot of pride in doing what they do. And obviously that's going to be a heck of a test if you're going up against Ovechkin, Strome, and Wilson. There's a lot to deal with there when it comes to offensive prowess and nastiness and just everything. So obviously, if the Rangers do intend to go that road, it's going to be a heck of a test for those guys. But once again, I do think that combination of VZ, Goodrow, and Pitlick, I think they're up to it because they've played well recently. And for the Rangers, the one thing that I'm looking for is, can that top line of theirs kind of sustain that success that they've had recently? Mika's been absolutely on fire. I believe it's now 13 points in his last 7 games. Kreider is somewhere in that ballpark as well. He's really been producing lately. And Blake Wheeler, a lot of people counted him out. He's found his game recently as well. Just looks more dangerous out there and seems to have a little bit more chemistry with Mika and Kreider. So I'm looking for a big night from that line. For a while, that Panarin line was carrying this team offensively 5v5. And it's nice that the Mika, Kreider, and now Wheeler line has gotten it going a little bit as well. So, let's hope that Ranger top line keeps it rolling here. I figure we could pretty much call it there for today. If you guys would like to ever, get in touch with the show, I did a mailbag episode not that long ago, but I was mostly just kind of reading comments from YouTube. If you guys have any question, any topic you want me to cover on this show, feel free to email it to me. That's the best way to do it. And I'd love to hear from you guys. We can make mailbag segments a little more of a regular thing on this show. I just want to toss out there for you guys at the end of today's episode. But yeah, can't wait to see the Rangers back in action a little bit later here tonight. Hopefully you guys are ready for it too. Hopefully everybody had a nice holiday break here, and maybe some of you are still on break. That would obviously be awesome. But yeah, Ranger hockey's back, and the way they've played this season, as many wins as they've had, I don't think anybody among us is going to complain about that. So definitely looking forward to seeing the Rangers once again coming out of the break with a rivalry game and a game that should be, I think, an edge of your seat thriller. Emotions always run high between the Rangers and the Caps, and I don't think this will be any exception here tonight. But yeah, I figure we can pretty much call it right there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, once again, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.